It's really good to be with you. My name is Patrick Regan, and I'm at my home church in Chelmsford here by myself, feeling a bit lonely. And I really want to talk to you about journeying with others through a crisis. And me and my wife, Diane, we run a charity called Kintsugi Hope, and we're trying to produce loads of resources around emotional, mental well-being that could be helpful for folk right now. I've written this book called Honesty Over Silence. It's okay not to be okay. And we also have this journal. I found journaling so beneficial during this time. It's called This Is Me. It's got poems. It's got Bible verses and all sorts of things in it. It's just been so helpful to journal through this time. So you can get those on the Kintsugi shop. All the proceeds go back into Kintsugi Hope. Charities at the moment can't do events, so it's really tough. So there is a big website, I'm sure you're aware, begins with A. If you get it from there, it's great, but we get no money. If you get it from us, then at least we can try and help more people with the proceeds. Now, I wanted to talk to you about the Emmaus Road. The Emmaus Road is one of my favourite stories in the Bible. Luke 24, verse 13 to 25, and I won't read it all out because we've only got limited time. But here we see Jesus, the morning after his resurrection, deciding that he's going to spend the first morning listening to some heartbroken friends. Now, I'm guessing if there was a marketing expert, they might have gone, Jesus, we could do a big event, we can get your name out there, it's all going to be okay. But this really challenges me. The morning after his resurrection, he spends the time with two people. There's no mass numbers. We love numbers, don't we? We love to talk about how many views we've had online or how many people used to come to our festivals and conferences. Jesus spends the morning with two heartbroken people. And Cleopas and Mary, most theologians think Mary probably was at the resurrection, at the crucifixion, and a different Mary was present after the resurrection. But they were there, and so if they were there at the crucifixion, they would have heard the agony, the pain, the anxiety, the humiliation of what a crucifixion is all about. And so what happens is Jesus walks alongside these broken people, and what really gets me about this is they start talking. And they start talking about, have you not heard that went on? Because they wanted a military Messiah. The Israelites, they'd been invaded by the Assyrians, the Babylonians, the Persians. Now the Romans are ruling over them. And they just wanted to rule over their own land. And they were hoping that Jesus was going to be the Messiah that sorted out the Romans, that brought everything back to Jerusalem, and the renewal of the temple and all those things. And they're disappointed, they're disillusioned, they're heartbroken. And the interesting thing is, as they start telling their story, Jesus doesn't interrupt them and go, guys, it's okay, I'm Jesus. Ta-da! Everything's all right, we don't need to have this conversation. He let them talk. He let them talk. He let them go on the journey. I think so often the temptation for many of us is we want to fix people. And so we become really bad at listening. If we're going to journey with people through a crisis, we've got to learn to listen better, to listen to the pain, to listen to the anxiety, to listen to the confusion of trying to work it out. In Kintsugi Hope, we often talk about holding space for people. And I love this definition of holding space. What does it mean to hold space for someone? It means that we are willing to walk alongside another person in whatever journey they're on without judging them, making them feel inadequate, trying to fix them, or trying to impact the outcome. When we hold space for other people, we open our hearts, offer unconditional support, and let go of judgment and control. So often what we've done in people's pain, we've told people who are struggling that it's their fault. Or we try and come up with reasons for their pain. It's your sin, it's your unbelief, it's your lack of faith. You just need to pray a bit more. I remember this beautiful lady coming up to me once. She was struggling, she thought she was struggling with depression. She said, I've been crying every day for months. And I feel so low and depressed. And I went to my pastor and I told him how I felt. And he said to me, I hear no faith in your comments whatsoever. And she looked at me and she goes, what do I do? And I was like, well, I'm not a medical expert at all. But I think it'd probably be worth you going to your GP. She's like, really? You don't think I should have prayer? I'm like, you can have prayer. But actually, it would be really wise to sit down with your GP and just share how you're feeling. Psalm 107 says this, let the redeemed of the Lord tell their stories. We need to walk alongside. The second key thing about this story that really gets to me is it challenges my priorities. The morning after the resurrection, He walked with these people. They were a peasant couple. They didn't have much status or influence, and he walks alongside them, and he tells them the story. He tells them, he doesn't even butt in and go, "I'm Jesus," after after a bit. He starts telling them that their story is connected with this bigger story, the story of God. He talks about the Old Testament and the prophets, and he talks about that it comes to a climax in the person of Jesus. And they would have known the scriptures. They would have known the verses in Isaiah that talks about the man of sorrows, but they would have never put two and two together, knowing that it was in the person of Jesus that this prophecy becomes true. But by doing that, Jesus is saying, you are significant. You're not forgotten. You're not overlooked. There are so many people in this time of coronavirus that are feeling overlooked. Emotions that are just too hard to bear. And I think at this time we have a message to say you're not overlooked, you're not forgiven. We have a Messiah that walks alongside that says you are significant, you're part of the story. One of the biggest issues before lockdown in our country was loneliness. People felt isolated. We need to be people that walk alongside, that have the right values, the right priorities. I think what the coronavirus has done is magnified the inequality that is in our country amongst the poor and the marginalised, and the effect as well it's had on friends from the Black, Asian, ethnic minorities. It's incredible. It's just magnified some of these awful things. And, we've got to respond differently. Our education system, I've got so many friends who are teachers and they're amazing. But I've got a daughter who's got special additional needs and she'll never get an A in any subject, though she seems to get A for effort in everything. And she'll never get 100% attendance certificate because she has hospital appointments and doctor's appointments. And yet we have a culture that just says it's all about the stats, it's all about the performance. I believe that we need to start putting people before programs, learning before statistics, character before charisma, kindness before achievement. We need to start telling people, whatever background, you are included. You are included. I used to speak at a lot of after dinner speeches. And I always used to find it funny because what used to happen is before the dinner, very posh dinner, is people come up to you and they're trying to work out if you've got money or if you have influence. With me, they get neither. No money, no influence, particularly. And then they move on really quickly because they don't want to spend time talking to me after some very, very small canapes. And then they realise I'm the after-dinner speaker and they feel a little bit embarrassed, I think. But the reality is Jesus always sought out the people that who often felt the most broken. The third thing about this story is, as you know, they go there and then they get to their destination. And Jesus is actually going to move on at that point. He hasn't revealed who he is yet. He's going to move on. And they say, no, come, stay for a meal. And then Jesus breaks the bread. And then Cleopas recognizes him. I don't know, there's something beautiful about brokenness reveals who Jesus is. And it suddenly makes sense. It suddenly makes sense who Jesus is. And Jesus is someone we can trust. We can trust with our pain. We can trust with the people that we love. It's hard to trust someone that doesn't know anything about suffering, isn't it? Well, we have a God that knows about suffering, that knows about the human experience. He carried our burdens. That's why we can trust him. And in that sense of being together, we can make a difference. We started Kintsugi Hope now about 2 years ago. It came after a real time of brokenness in my life, both with physical challenges and mental health challenges. And I thought about all the sermons that I'd heard, and I'd never heard a decent sermon about mental health. I was told that anxiety was not trusting God enough, and that I needed to pray more and trust God more. And I just felt incredibly lonely and isolated. But I realized that as we were authentic and honest and we share in our common humanity, that's where we become a little bit more human. And so me and Diane, we started this charity, Kintsugi Hope. We did this 12-week program where churches now all over the UK, is utterly incredible, are doing programs on Zoom and on WhatsApp groups and in gardens and just meeting people in their community, in their church, not trying to fix them, but trying to walk alongside them, not trying to say that, I'm the saved one and you're the pagan, is actually sharing some of those things, talking about spirituality, because prayer is how I do cope with anxiety. So I talk about that in our group. We talk about forgiveness, we talk about self-acceptance, we talk about all those things. but we're there to love. We're there to love without an agenda. And so now we've trained up over 300 leaders, I don't know how many churches, running it for young people as well, because our young people, they're calling it the coronavirus generation, where if you're between certain ages, I think up to 20, I think they're saying it's almost like up to 24 years old, teenagers up to 24 years old, there's going to be some real challenges because of what's gone on. Getting to people early, talking to them about the love and compassion of God, walking alongside them, allowing people to tell their stories, being non-judgmental. And when we do that, we do things with people and not just for people. I want to finish by reading this quote from Samuel Wells. I think it's an absolutely brilliant quote, and talks about the power of with and not just for. Samuel Wells says this: being with is not fundamentally about finding solutions. It's about companionship and struggle and distress. Sometimes the obsession with finding solutions can get in the way of forming profound relationships. And sometimes these relationships are more significant than the solutions. People are more important than anything else. Jesus walks along the Emmaus Road. He spends the morning. He challenges our values. He's revealed in the context of brokenness, that we may too, in our brokenness, go and reveal a Christ that loves and cares for people. May God bless you.